Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor P. Bhaskar Reddy, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, SV University, Tirupati. I am the principal investigator of the subject Indian culture. In the present module of the course Outlines of Indian History, you are going to learn about the geographical factors in Indian history. It is a known fact that the physical features of the country played an important role in shaping its history as well as culture. By the end of this module, you will be able to learn about the Indian subcontinent, the physiographic zones of the Indian subcontinent, the Himalayas, the Indo-Gangetic Plain, the peninsular India, Central Highlands, Deccan Plateau, and finally the impact of geographical factors on Indian history and culture. It is a known fact that the life and habits of the people and the history of the country are largely determined by its physical features. It is generally said that history has two eyes. One is chronology and other is geography. In other words, time and space are significant factors in determining the historical process. The history of India is also largely influenced by its geography. Hence, the study of Indian geographical features contributes the better understanding of history. Let us start with the physical location of the India. The fundamental unity and internal diversity of Indian culture accurately reflect the geographical factors. India's cultural frontiers have proved to be remarkably constant and closely defined, partly because of our physical frontiers are corresponding clearly marked. To the south, southeast and southwest, she is effectively contained by wide expanses of ocean. To the north and northwest and northeast, massive highest mountain ranges in the world divide her dramatically from the rest of the Asia. These mountains have always prevented the easy passage of traders and travelers and acted as barriers to human contact. They also screen from the Arctic winds and air currents of Central Asia. These northern mountains, therefore, form not only cultural frontiers but also a series of major climatic frontiers. Within the subcontinent itself, almost every type of tropical or non-tropical climate can be found, ranging from the arid expanses of the Thar Desert to the dense forests of the eastern and western Ghats. Have a look at the formation of the Indian subcontinent with Himalayas, Gangetic Plains, and the three sides by the oceans. Now, we can discuss what are the physical zones of the Indian subcontinent and how they are important in the study of the history and culture of Indian subcontinent, because these zones played an important role from the beginning of history in shaping its culture and history, a unique one. The Indian subcontinent is comparably in size to the Western Europe, but it is more decisively isolated from the rest of the world. The Indian subcontinent is divided into 6 countries: India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. When exploring the history of Southeast Asia, it is necessary to ignore modern political boundaries and treat the Indian subcontinent and its many regions and subregions as one unit. See the map of the location of the Indian subcontinent with the countries of Pakistan, Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka. All these are one unit. Now, in the world, you see the map about the geographical marcation of the Indian subcontinent, which all the regions of this subcontinent we have to treat as a one unit. The history of the subcontinent is really about the historical trajectories and interactions of these regions and sub-regions, which during the Maurya, Mughal and British empires attained some measure of political unity. The Indian subcontinent has fairly well-defined geographical frontiers but enormous ecological diversity. The structure of the subcontinent as a whole is the basis from which all regional distinctions spring. It depends upon the interrelationship of the peninsula, a stable and extremely ancient landmass with the young folded mountains which form the northern frontiers. These mountains are considered by many authorities to be still in the process of active formation, weathering, erosion are certainly taking place at great speed. As a result, the mountain zone is far from stable and vast quantities of alluvium are continually being carried down to the plains. These plains have formed into two river basins, the Indus flowing towards northwest, the Ganges flowing towards east. Have a look at the two river basins of the Indian subcontinent originated from Himalayas, which flow in different directions. One merges with the Bay of Bengal and the other merges with the Arabian Sea. The instability of the mountain zones in recent geological times also means that each valley tends to have unique features. This is often caused by the local formation of a barrier due to landslides or tectonic movements and its subsequent breakdown, followed by downcutting and regarding the course of the river. In human terms, such mountainous country lends itself to the development of many small distinct communities, each valley being a microregion both in geographical and in human terms, whose habitants form a largely self-contained economic and cultural entity. With this brief discussion about the geographical location of the India and its subcontinent, now we can discuss what are the important zones of the Indian subcontinent, how they are important in the study of Indian history and culture, because these zones became the central zones for the evolution of Indian history and culture. The Indian subcontinent can be divided into three major regions: the Himalayas, the Indo-Gangetic Plain, the peninsular India. Have a look at the map to get an idea about the Himalayas, which occupies in the northern part of India, and in lower the Gangetic Basin and the Indian Peninsula. Among the Indian subcontinent, India is the largest country, located in between Himalayas on the north, Indian Ocean on the south, Arabian Sea on the west, Bay of Bengal on the east. It comprises 29 states and 7 union territories. The population of India is more than 1.25 billion in the year 2015. Have a look at the Indian map, and which includes the 29 states, including the recently formed Telangana and union territories. With this brief discussion, now we can start the different zones of the Indian subcontinent and how they are important in the study of our history and culture. The first is Himalayas. See the map of the Himalayas and the nature of the formation of the Himalayas. The Himalayan mountains are situated on the north of India, starting from the Pamir in the extreme northwest of India. The mighty Himalayan range extends towards the northeast. It has a length of nearly 2,560 kilometers with an average breadth of 240 to 320 kilometers. It has many peaks The highest peak of Himalayas is known as Mount Everest, with its highest being 8,869 meters. The Himalayas can be divided into three zones: the western, central and eastern zones, each with their own specific characteristics. It is a fact that in no other country that mountain ranges shaped the life of the country so much than the Himalayas of India. The Himalayas affected the course of our history in many ways. The Himalayas made India a separate geographical unit from the rest of Asia. Hence, India developed a distinct type of civilization and culture. It acts as a natural wall and it protects the country against the cold Arctic winds blowing from Siberia through Central Asia. They stop the monsoon rising from the Indian Ocean and provide a lot of rainfall. Himalayas stood as a natural barrier to protect India against the invasions. The western Himalayas have been the trade routes throughout prehistoric and historic times. The Gomal, Bolan, Khyber, Kurram are the important passes in the Himalayas situated in the Hindu Kush, Suleiman and Kirtar ranges. These passes from the western mountains came down to the plains of the Indus basin of Sindh and Punjab. The Indo-Aryans, Indo-Greeks, Parthians, Sakas, Kushanas, Hunas and Turks entered India through these passes and ruled over a major portion of northwestern India since 4th century BC to 3rd century Christian era. With trade and military conquests, all kinds of external influences have also come to India. The Swat Valley formed another route where Alexander of Macedon came to India. Therefore, these passes in the northwestern mountains facilitated trade as well as socio-cultural contacts between the India and Central Asia. So far we discussed about the important zone of Indian subcontinent, Himalayas, and its importance in the history of subcontinent and how it became a cradle for the development of several cultures. Now we can move to another zone of the Indian subcontinent, that is the Gangetic Plain. Have a look at the map to get an idea about the location of the Indian Gangetic Plain. The fertile northern alluvial plain of the Ganga, Indus and its tributaries is another major geographical zone known as Indo-Gangetic Plain. The Indo-Gangetic Plain is irrigated by three important rivers: Ganga, Indus, Brahmaputra. See the map of the location of the rivers, not only the Ganga, Yamuna and Brahmaputra and several others. The Ganges plains fall into three regions: the Doab of Ganges and Yamuna rivers in the west corresponding to Uttar Pradesh, the central region corresponding to Bihar, the eastern region consisting of the Ganges, Brahmaputra delta and its hinterland Bengal. The first two regions have supported city life and had been the centers of trade and culture of North India since the time of Buddha in 6th century BCE. The river Brahmaputra rises beyond the Himalayas, flow across Tibet and then through the plains of northwestern India. The five rivers of Indus and their tributaries flow across a vast alluvial plain from their source in the Himalayas, carrying water from the melting snows and Himalayan rains. The Thar Desert and Aravalli Hills are situated in between the Indus and Gangetic Plain. Mount Abu is the highest point of mountain ranges, having 5,650 feet in the Aravalli Hills. The Vindhyan ranges separate the northern plains from the peninsular India, while the Aravalli divide the Thar Desert from central India. The Indo-Gangetic Plains were the pivot of Indian history and culture. It affects many ways in Indian history. It is on the banks of the river Indus that the famous Indus Valley civilization flourished. The Vedic culture prospered in the western Gangetic plain. The post-Vedic literature based on the use of iron thrived in the middle Gangetic basin. The lower Gangetic valley and northern Bengal came into limelight in the age of Guptas. The Brahmaputra valley covering Assam gained importance in early medieval times. The rivers served as arteries of commerce and communication. The Indo-Gangetic plain contributed to the rise of many urban centers, particularly on the river banks or at the confluence of rivers. The ancient cities Prayaga, Varanasi, Hastinapur, Pataliputra, Lahore and others were the towns situated on the banks of the Gangetic plain. Among these, the city of Pataliputra, situated at the confluence of the Son river with Ganges, had remained the cradle of empires like Mauryas, Sungas, Guptas and other kingdoms. The prosperity of the basin attracted the foreigners to conquer India, from Aryans to Mughals. Most of the decisive battles of the Indian history, such as Kurukshetra, Tarain, Panipat, Plassey and Buxar, were fought on this soil. Thus, the Indo-Gangetic plain not only occupies an important place in the subcontinent, it became the cradle for the development of several cultures, and it became the center for political institutions since the beginning of Indus period or earlier, and many dynasties rose to prominence in the same area. Thus, the Ganga basin is a core zone of the Indian subcontinent. Now, we can move to another zone, the peninsular India. The peninsula is an old and relatively stable geographical formation. Its landscape marked by plateau, plains and fertile valleys of rivers. The peninsular plateau can be broadly categorized into Central Highlands, the Deccan Plateau. Have a look at the location of the Central Highlands and various valleys in that. The Central Highlands lies north of the Narmada river. The Central Highlands are wider in the east but narrower in the west. The Malwa Plateau, with its two major rivers Narmada, Tapati, lies between the Aravalli and Central Indian mountains. A major portion of the Malwa Plateau is known as the Central Highlands. The Vindhyan Range is situated on the north of the Central Highlands. The Vindhyan Hill Ranges tends to run in east-west direction, except for the northwestern extension of Central India, where the Aravalli Hills runs from southwest to northwest. The area west of Aravalli is covered by the Thar Desert, which it is a part of Rajasthan. The plateau stretches further to west, but it cut across by the sandy and rocky deserts of Rajasthan. The eastern part is known as Bundelkhand and Bagelkhand in southern Uttar Pradesh. In the South Bihar, it is called Chota Nagpur Plateau. On the east, the Chhattisgarh Plain is another region contained within the forest belt of Central India and consisting of the fertile basin of the Mahanadi. Gujarat, lying at the western end of the Central Indian belt of hills, is another region of ancient settlement and rich in sites of every period from the Harappan onwards. Orissa, on the extreme eastern end of the Central Indian hills, includes the coastal plains to the southwest, coastal delta and the delta of Mahanadi. In the peninsular India, another important zone is the Deccan Plateau. The great Indian Peninsular Plateau, also known as the Plateau of Peninsular India, is the vast plateau comprising most of the southern part of the country. The Vindhya and Satpura mountains, along with Narmada and Tapati rivers, form the great dividing line between northern and southern India. The plateau of the south of the Vindhyan mountains is known as Deccan Plateau. This plateau is a very old land surface sloping gently from west to east with mature graded rivers. The Deccan Plateau is flanked by the Eastern Ghats and Western Ghats, and it is higher in the west and slopes gently towards eastwards. The Coromandel coast stands between Eastern Ghats and the Bay of Bengal. The Western Ghats runs along the Arabian Sea, and the land between these are known as Konkan up to Goa, and beyond that as Kanara. The passes in the Western Ghats like Junnar, Kanheri and Karle linked the trade routes of the western ports, and it became the center for the development of Buddhism in the ancient period. The section of the western coastal plain is included as a part of the state of Maharashtra, but it is totally different ecologically. The state of Karnataka was a part of Deccan Plateau. The Deccan Plateau of Andhra includes a number of subregions, particularly in the Eastern Ghats and other hilly tracts, each with its own character. The Deccan Plateau breaks down into the isolated blocks of hills in the extreme south, the chief of which are the Nilagiris and the Cardamom Hills, which still partially divide the eastern and western coastal plains. The eastern coastal plain, which widens out towards the south, together with its intermediate hinterland, forms a separate lowland region known as Tamil Nadu. The western coastal plains also widen out to form a separate region known as Malabar, and it is now forms the state of Kerala. The southern end remains the famous Palghat Mountains. The major rivers of the southern peninsula are Mahanadi, Krishna, Godavari, Penna and Kaveri. Throughout the history of the region between Krishna and Tungabhadra remained a bone of contention between the major kingdoms of south. Many of the political powers rose to power in this region after the fall of the Mauryas. The Shatavahanas, who rose to prominence in this region, they dominated the destinies of the Deccan for nearly 456 years, followed by Ichwakos, Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Western Chalukyas, Kakatiyas, Vijayanagaras, Bahamanis, and later on Asafjahis. The Kaveri Delta, which was located south of the extreme south of India, constitutes another distinct geographical zone. It became a cradle for many southern powers, starting from Sangam age, Pallavas, then Cholas, Pandyas, and later Vijayanagaras and several other dynasties. The long coastline of southern peninsula provided the opportunity to carry brisk maritime activities with the Southeast Asian and Rome countries. Apart from trade, they also spread the Indian art, religion and culture in these parts of the world. The Deccan Plateau, which was separated from the Central Highlands by Vindhyan Mountains, it comprises of Eastern Ghats, Western Ghats and a sea on three sides. With the peculiar geographical location, this region played an important role in the political history of India, where this region witnessed the rise of many political powers since the Mauryas up to British period. Besides that, the South India and Deccan having the different cultures in different zones because of the regional imbalances and the geographical factors played an important role in development of these cultural differences. With this discussion on the different zones of the Indian subcontinent, now we can discuss the impact of the geographical features on Indian history and culture. The impact of geographical factors like mountains, rivers, forests, plains, rainfall, weather, different cultures of India, including its types of various regions, have deep influences on the history of India. The people of each of these regions of India have their own character, which is as clearly marked as constant as that of country in which they live. Naturally, their character derives largely from the country and their modes of life in it, which has developed over the course of time as they discovered ways of making their living from the resources it offered. Many features of such regional culture, therefore, are clearly related to practical day-to-day needs and to material locally available. Therefore, from prehistoric time onwards, the common need for metals and other sources had produced a network of interactions between the regions of the country. The exploitation of natural resources of the country had an important bearing on its history and culture. The early human settlements are naturally found in India, in the hilly area and those river valleys which are situated between the hills. Each one of these areas bounded by rivers and in some cases by mountains and sometimes identical with deltas and plateaus constituted a political and administrative unit in which different ruling dynasties rose and fell. In course of time, every region came into a distinct culture unit having its own style of life and language. The geographical features of with these remarks, now we can conclude with a observation on the geographical factors and its impact on Indian history and culture. The geographical features of India consisting of mountains, forests, rivers, deserts, plateaus, plains, thick forest cover, crops, people with different cultures and traditions have established deep roots on the political, social and religious history of India right from prehistoric time to the present days. India's cultural frontiers have proved to be remarkably constant and closely defined, partly, no doubt, because her physical frontiers are corresponding clearly defined. In short, almost all the peculiarities of the Indian people and their history may be explained with reference to the physical features of country. With this discussion on India subcontinent, its physical structure, its mountains, rivers and various plateaus, I hope you may understand about the geography of Indian subcontinent and how it shaped the history and culture of this region. I hope you may be able to understand all these things in understanding the history in better way. Thank you.